Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Up the Reds. I wanted to weigh in on the news that Philippe Coutinho has actually signed with Aston Villa under Steven Gerrard. I think we all just kind of suspected it was happening even after the press conference. You know, Stevie G had a really good poker face about the whole thing, but there just kind of seemed to be a bit of a little wry smile kind of towards the tail end that I think kind of sealed the deal. So. A lot of the pundits have kind of weighed in, said that they think it's a good move. I don't think Newcastle was kind of ever a reality. I mean, they do have money to kind of put that way, but with Trippier kind of headed in, I don't think they were going to kind of do a double announcement over something like that. And again, I do feel like the Gerrard effect is what really kind of brought Coutinho to Aston Villa. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say, hey, it's a 6-month deal. It's just, it's kind of a loan. They'll kind of talk about the expense. I mean, this is a guy that's probably making 400K a week. I think they said that Aston Villa were going to get him for less than half of what that actually is, so that's not too bad. And I think it's a good move all around. I think it accomplishes several things. I think one, if Coutinho comes in and does a phenomenal job, then I think it kind of serves as marketing, fresh marketing for Barcelona to then be able to go out and maybe try to market him to other teams, whether throughout the various leagues, to say, look, he is relevant. He's not worth what we brought him in for, but he's worth something. Especially as they're kind of looking to potentially offload Dembele, and really just kind of the spending habits they had in the past with Coutinho, who I think anybody, including Liverpool fans, thought went for just an astronomical amount that made no sense. I mean, I think we're still spending Coutinho money, but anyway, I think it can accomplish that for Barcelona if he kind of comes out, looks really good. Then it may kind of garner some interest. I think Coutinho looks really good in the EPL. I think he plays really well in the league, and I think that's obviously evidenced by the time that he's spent here. I will admit, and I actually brought this in so that everybody would know that I wasn't just kind of BSing. This is the last jersey I bought in 2017. Not the last jersey that I bought because I buy one every year, but this is the last one I bought in 2017, Coutinho, and this is of course right before he heads off to Barcelona. So I will say that I was a bit pissed when the move happened initially. Obviously, the money was great, and I think that did a lot to kind of temper the wounds. But when it's your club, I think we all hope that our club's kind of the end-all to be-all for the players that come to it and not a stepping stone. And I think that with the ambition that Liverpool had at the time, one of our arguably best players, as we were really starting to put stuff together under Klopp and kind of start to move forward, one of our best players saying that they kind of wanted out for this kind of childhood dream of theirs to play for Barcelona was a bit of a bitch slap to the face. That being said, I don't know that I handled it well in the 2018-19 season. I think that, when he went to Barcelona to quote-unquote try and win trophies, I think that every time they fell short, Barca, that I kind of relished in that a bit. But I'm over it. So, but no, I think that this accomplishes that for Barcelona. I think that this is great for Villa because, again, I think Villa, they don't really have kind of a creative architect. I mean, you'll have John McGinn. He'll throw some pretty clean balls up to Ollie every once in a while and out to Ramsey, and he can create to some extent, but their passing accuracy has kind of been atrocious in the final third, and I think the fans are recognizing that there have been levels to which certain of their players are kind of capping out. And that if Aston Villa wants to get back into Europe, they're going to have to make moves like this. And I think that this is a great decision. I think Stevie G is the best manager to get the most out of Coutinho. Coutinho is a very shy individual based on everything we've seen. But Stevie G and he appear to have had a great relationship when he was captaining Philippe. And so I think that I think he's going to know how to get the best out of him, and I honestly think he's going to know how to deploy him well. Again, when he went to Barcelona under Valverde, he was playing in a number of positions that were not, something. Again, he was kind of more of a left-leaning LCM or left mid, and then obviously could play in the left wing position, but was often deployed outright and then to other positions. So he's bouncing all over the place. But really, that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is that I take issue with the fact that a lot of the people have been saying, oh, this is a great move, but for his form. This is a great move, but for his failures in really making a dent here and making a dent there, and blah blah blah. And I think that's a poor choice of words. I think that you would have to say that Philippe Coutinho is an out of favor player from Barcelona that is seeking this kind of loan move, and you can say that his form has dropped somewhat. But again, I think some of that, number one, comes with age, and it comes with the injuries that he's had to his meniscus, and kind of bouncing back from that. He's always been a hard worker, but some of it's also what was the point of his move, and who was he coming to replace? I mean, if you look at Barcelona, he was coming in to replace Andres Iniesta, which in and of itself is absolutely insane that you're going to step into that person's shoes. And Iniesta was still there when he first came around, so he kind of had to figure out his role there for a little bit. And then even when he went to Bayern Munich, a lot of people will say that he was meant to kind of drop into the Robben and Ribery role, but he really doesn't have the pace and the dribbling to serve in that capacity. So they basically said, look, we're going to pull it back. He's going to kind of play in this more creative, left mid role to try to create opportunities, to try to get some distant shots in. But then obviously at that point, he's then taking on Muller head to head. And that's a difficult place to be when you're trying to fight for a position. So trust me, if you've got a lot of players that you're saying are out of form, or their form has lapsed or slipped slightly, I think you could do far worse than have someone who you're basically saying their form has dropped slightly in the top team in Santander and the top team in the Bundesliga, and now he's coming over to Aston Villa. I think there is a lot of pressure on him, but I think at the same time, again, as I mentioned, I think Stevie G is gonna bring the best out of him as he has before. And I don't know, I think that Coutinho, when he was in with Thiago over at Bayern, and obviously we brought Thiago over to us, I think that you look at him and you say maybe he isn't the type of player that does well when he is surrounded by superstars. I mean, it's you've got, at the time you had Suarez, you had Neymar, you had Messi, and you think, oh, well, this player should just naturally do well. It's kind of hard to stand out from the crowd. So I don't know if that's ever kind of a doomed type of scenario. I mean, again, Iniesta, his talent and skill was such that it was undeniable, even in the face of someone like Messi. So I think an interesting stat that we had actually looked up was that they kind of were measuring, since in the past 7 years, they were measuring the most goals from outside the box in the top 5 European leagues. And they were measuring the players with the most goals. Obviously, Messi ran away with it. He's got 45, or had 45 at the time that this measurement was taken. He ran away with it. In the number 2 position, however, was Philippe Coutinho. Right below him by 1 goal was Cristiano Ronaldo, and then with 22 goals was Christian Eriksen, and then Pjanic was obviously the last one. Now, of course, I think that's actually changed a little bit, and I think Coutinho's actually dropped down to 4th in that list. But all I'm saying is, in terms of distant shooters, to have your name kind of amongst that group is indicative of your true ability. So I think that people obviously want to temper expectations, but I personally believe that Coutinho is going to come in, and I think you're going to see his impact almost immediately. And I think that these are the types of moves, because again, he's not the only player that Villa needs to bring in order to get back to Europe, and on top of that, to do well there as well as in the league. But he is indicative of the type of decisions that need to be made. I don't know what happens after this. I don't know if 6 months is enough time for him to establish kind of that marketing pitch for Barcelona to be able to sell him. They're going to have to sell him at an incredible loss, just like they've been eating his transfer fees. So I'm interested to see, does that loan get extended, and really, what is, kind of what is his role there. So just wanted to talk about that briefly because I kind of wanted to pull people back a little bit, because it's all about, you're kind of beating the man down, talking about his poor form, when realistically, if you look at the stats, you're basically saying he's got about 8 to 6 goals for every 23 games played. That's not a bad, that's not a bad return for somebody playing in those leagues. I mean, if he had, and this is, obviously not a diss, but if he had gone to what many would view as kind of a lesser league, at least on the competitive scale, and was putting 4 or 5 goals in every once in a while, then absolutely. But if you're going into the Bundesliga, if you're over in La Liga, and you're putting those down. I mean, again, I think he had a grand total, all competitions played. He had a grand total of 201 games played for Liverpool. I think he had 54 goals and 45 assists in that amount of time. And then you see him at Barcelona, where he gets 106 games played, at least at the time of the stats that I'm going through, and had 25 goals by 14 assists, which really obviously, there is a drop there. There is a drop there, but it's not as significant, I think, as people would make it out to be. And then, of course, obviously, if you look at Bayern, and I'm not sure what they're actually showing as his, so obviously Bayern, that you're talking about 23 games played, 8 goals, but it's actually 38 games, all competitions, 11 goals, 9 assists. We all know that Coutinho is going to take some shots from distance, and that some are just going to blow your mind, and some are going to go to the moon. But I feel like he's somewhat tempered that, and I feel like even more so, Stevie G is the type of player and the type of coach that he has the respect for, who's going to say, cut that shit out if it becomes a problem. But I really don't think it's going to be. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful appointment to the club, and I think that we're going to see some very interesting things coming from the Villa camp. So with that, I just appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk soon.